so much indeed, everyone, for staying with us right here on the program. So before we get into the matter of the live broadcast of the Presidential Election Tribunal, we'll be getting a very senior lawyer to give us perspectives on what it means, the implication of the ruling of today. Let's first and foremost touch on what is happening between the EFCC and Mr. Matawalle, the governor of Zamfara State. Let's begin with what is happening in that regard. So the EFCC came out to say Governor Matawalle of Zamfara State is being investigated over allegations of fraudulently diverting over 70 billion naira meant for some projects in the state. The EFCC ruled out in a statement, in a press conference held last week of some of these issues. They said they are investigating the governor over allegations of corruption, allegations of award of phantom contract, allegations of diversion of over 70 billion naira, allegations of diverting money sourced as a loan from an old commercial new generation bank, and that money is purportedly meant for the execution of projects across the local government areas of the state. The FCC went further that it is investigating the governor over the fact that some of these projects and the money is meant for these projects for over 100 companies reportedly received the payment from the funds. It is said also that no evidence of a service rendered to the state in respect of the funds. The EFCC also claimed that some of the contractors who had been invited and quizzed by the commission made startling revelations. And some of these revelations, as much as that they are compelling to the fact that the governor had asked, allegedly, that some of these people to return the funds received from the state covers back to him through his aides after converting the same funds into the United States dollars. These are some of the allegations that the EFCC has ruled out against Governor Matawalle of Zamfara State. Well, the governor has come out, and now he came out in full force against the EFCC board. And this is the allegation that he made. He said that EFCC chairman, that is Mr. Abdurrashid Bauer, has requested $2 million from him as bribe. And let me allow you to see what he said. And I quote him in an interview where he was reportedly to have been responding to some of these issues. He said, "I'm not resisting being probed. I'm still the governor and I have immunity. No one has invited me." The EFCC said they were investigating me. It was when I spoke that they made allegations against me. He, referring to Mr. Bauer, the EFCC boss, knows what he begged me to give him, which I did not. He went said several other things in respect of that, allegations of Mr. Bauer requesting $2 million from him as bribe. Let's get some perspectives on these one, and I have joining me virtually from his ex in the United Kingdom, Mr. Oladewaju Suraj. Is a right activist and the chairman of HIDA, a right organization in Nigeria. Thank you so much, Mr. Suraj, for your time tonight. Give us perspective.
Thank you for having me, sir.
What do you know about this matter? And what do Nigerians need to understand in the ramifications of this case?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it is very important that we always get to be guided by history, and we need to learn from it. Unfortunately, this has been the trends and almost the practice for politicians, especially and particularly governors, right from when the EFCC was headed by Nuhu Ribadu. If you remember very well, this was the former governor of Kwara State, the former governor of Delta State, James Ibori, all started the whole campaign against Ribadu, even to the extent of where his life was threatened and was almost killed at that time. So he was actually somebody removed from office by the late President Umaru Yar'Adua. The same thing just happened with Magu. If you remember how Magu was also forced out of office, and this was unfortunately orchestrated by not less any person than the Attorney General of the Federation, who was actually meant to protect Magu as the supervisory agency. And this is also coming down to the situation where there will be transition. So particularly those governors who would be leaving office would be at the forefront. Unfortunately, this is where we are having the sad aspect of a governor now coming out to accuse the EFCC chairman, particularly, of demanding bribe. And for that reason, nobody is going to say, yeah, if you have such an evidence, for someone, two things are clear here. It is either Matawalle is also guilty of those allegations of diverting the 70 billion naira that he's been accused of diverting, which means that forms the basis for the qualification of that right that he alleged. In the absence of that, or in the natural fact of that, it is also expected of Matawalle, if he has such an evidence and is genuinely saying the truth, to have actually used that as an opportunity to date the EFCC chairman by making him collect the bribe and then paying the bill on him. It is not going to be possible for someone who is already under investigation. And if you understand how these investigations work, it is not just when letters are written to Matawalle that the investigation begins. The investigation must have gone on for God knows weeks, months before it gets to the governor. I mean, it has been someone who privy to the operations of the anti-corruption agencies and law enforcement agencies. It could have taken nothing less than a year for this process to have commenced. So it would be an interesting time. I remember how we started with that, the governor of Kogi, and we could see the money that was recovered by EFCC against the governor of Kogi from Sterling Bank. And these were money that were still as loans to be used for the support of the state and also to pay salaries. These salaries are still being owed, unfortunately, and the money was sitting down on the bank. The governor of Kogi denied, but we have the money, has been denied what you have the evidence. Unfortunately, the whole thing started. And we, as an organization, did not make any statement of that because we had a court from Kogi which said, oh, okay, no, the action should not have been taken. And also was threatening to commit the power to prison tax. For us, there shouldn't be any reason for the refusal to obey a full court decision. And that was why we wanted to see what happened. And it was interesting that the Court of Appeal last week actually threw out the decision of the police judge and demanded that the chief judge should assign the case to another person, which means there was a miscarriage of justice in the decision of that judge. Unfortunately, some of the civil society organizations are also on the basis of that demanded that Bauer should be removed from office. And we are looking at where the institution needs to be protected. It is not about individual. It is not just about Bauer. And that was why we criticized strongly when Magu was also removed under the circumstances that he was removed. There must be security of them. And there's no other thing. Because many of them know that there's a new government coming into office. So there's a need to ensure all this kind of campaign of calumny to the extent that Bauer can either be removed. If Bauer is found to be guilty under any circumstances, yes, the right thing should be done, but not where politicians. There's no way you can find, a chicken to actually be in any way innocent in the court of the foxes, and that is what we have with the government. So many of these governors, who we all know, that are usually almost emperor in their state, and I say almost all the governors. There is no form of accountability that you can find in any of our states after today. And there's no way any of them will be investigated and there won't be issues of case. So we all know about it. So when we have these kind of allegations, we want to see not to deal with just mere allegations and more things. If we want to see concrete evidence, and I'm sure EFCC will have evidence to bring against Matawalle.
Mr. Suraj, yeah. So, I mean, there are some principles under the Nigerian legal system which, of course, for example, the principle of the assumption of innocence until proven guilty. In this case, the EFCC, although may have the powers to investigate a governor who is covered by immunity, but does not have the power to prosecute because of the immunity cover that a governor enjoys, just as the president also enjoys such an immunity. So the governor has few days to leave office, and the governor is alleging, from one quarter, what we are understanding is that this is some kind of witch hunt. The governor says something today, tomorrow the EFCC comes after him. Looks like what we have heard before. I mean, an action that looks like a witch hunt. And the allegations that the EFCC is bringing up the governor is going to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. Shouldn't he be given that opportunity?
Well, unfortunately, the governor came out first. So it is not just like you said, the governor came out and said something, and then EFCC had to defend itself. Are you expecting that EFCC be quiet when the governor came up with that level of false allegation, either false or genuine? I mean, definitely EFCC would also have to come out. There must be a basis. So this is also the issue about the presumption of, let us listen for the sake of argument, assume that the governor Matawalle is innocent, as he said, until he's proven guilty. But there was an allegation which came out first. So it wasn't the EFCC that came out first to accuse Matawalle of anything. But Matawalle
this is the premise, Mr. Suraj. Mr. Matawalle has said that the EFCC should stop being one-sided in its investigation. Just a moment. He said that the governor, that they should not focus only on the governors, that they should also focus on the presidency and members of the cabinet. And a few days later, the EFCC came after him, and he is alleging witch hunt.
I totally agree with you, and I totally agree with him on that basis. We are not going to allow all of them, including those family members of the president, including those who are ministers, and there are several allegations against the minister. If it is about witch hunt, we need to hunt all the witches. So there shouldn't be any separation of saying one is federal, one is state. All of them must be investigated, including the new contracts that are just being awarded. And for us, my organization, for instance, just wrote a petition against the Minister of Communication over the attempt to do the 24 billion internet in hospitals. Public internet and in the airport within a month of leaving office. And for us, that is not possible. That is also a way of siphoning funds. All of them must be investigated as long as we are. I agree. Matawalle should submit himself to investigation and then call for the investigation of the other. But that is not a basis to say, I must not be investigated if others are not investigated. No. If you are being investigated, go there and clear your name. And EFCC must also go ahead to ensure that all the other people, either at federal, at state, and the local government, unfortunately, it does bring the EFCC doing the most of the real job. So you also need to give some kind of, slack. You need to cut EFCC some slack that it can't do everything. We need the Code of Conduct rule. Unfortunately, that is almost like in a comatose. And the Code of Conduct Tribunal, which is also one of the failures of the President Buhari regime, failed to rejig that the Code of Conduct Tribunal to have it prosecute all the cases that have been investigated. As for the last check, there are about 500 cases that the Code of Conduct Bureau has submitted to the Code of Conduct Tribunal. The chairman is just on a frolic on his own, and there's nobody that is monitoring. That is also very unfortunate. So we need the Code of Conduct Bureau. We need the IPTC.
So, Mr. Suraj, so if we look at the scenario, the situation between Mr. Matawalle and the EFCC boss, Mr. Matawalle has said, look, the EFCC boss, he knows where we met. He asked me for $2 million bribe. Can the person who is alleged to have requested for a bribe be the one sitting on investigating a governor? In this sense, where does the issue of fair hearing comes in this matter? What would you advise that the EFCC does for someone who, in fact, when you are before a court and you do not feel that you will get justice in front of that court, you ask the court to you have the judge to recuse himself, or you ask that you cannot get justice in front of the court. Can the
No,
EFCC, whom is boss, this man, who have been alleged to have siphoned over 70 billion, and he said the EFCC boss has requested $2 million US from him, can they rightfully sit on investigating this man?
there's absolutely nothing stopping EFCC from investigating the case. Like you rightly also said, there's always the need for fairness. So if Matawalle is investigated by EFCC and he has the evidence to the extent of the demand for bribes, that would be a basis for him to present before the court and say this is actually not a fair investigation or prosecution. So he should gather his evidence to go to court. But that would not be a basis because somebody has alleged. It's just like somebody saying, oh, because you want to present some of the facts on your program, that because you have asked for money. And the management say, oh, because somebody said you have asked for money. Without evidence, without any proven evidence that you should not appear on your program again, that would be very unfair to you. There must be a basis and substance that would have to convince anybody. Before the governor said, we met, where did you meet? Tell the public. If you don't want to tell the public, please put up a complaint with the evidence that can convince either the appointing authority of the national or the national assembly to then demand for the suspension, removal, and prosecution of Bawa. But in the absence of that, we must allow people to just use the basis of saying somebody has solicited bribes. So for that reason, it should not discharge its fundamental or the statutory duty for which it's appointed. I think that would not be fair to our institutions, and that would just allow for people to come up with such level of allegations to increase investigation and prosecution. But if he is speaking the truth and he has the evidence, and now the EFCC to go ahead with these investigations, at the point when you are about to bring up your defense, then you go ahead and raise the preliminary objection on the basis of all this evidence that you have. But we can't use that as a basis to say, oh no, so EFCC should not, because Bawa is not the one that is actually investigating. There are other people that will investigate us that are there, and that is the basis that I think we must approach some of this. And that is what the politicians want us to do. They want to problematize, they want to create this level of, understanding that, asking to excuse himself, and then the whole thing gets messy and not getting what we want from the law enforcement agencies. But what we can't in any way, like I said, the EFCC is already statutorily bound to do its work. And there are bases for you to raise level of that allegation and raise objection. And that can also even be raised with the Ministry of Justice or to the presidency or any other supervisory agency, even the National Assembly, with evidence for that to happen. But I totally disagree that, EFCC cannot do its work because somebody has raised allegation against the chairman.
So I'd like to say, ask you, Mr. Suraj, if you look at it, the EFCC also come out to say, look, we in the close to the end of the tenure of some of these people in executive office, a lot of them had already traveled out of the country. That in fact they are working with international organizations and other countries to ensure that these persons are brought to book. Are you worried about the manner in which things are going, and suddenly people are already running from justice in this country? How much of trust do you have in some of these countries to helping Nigeria bring back some of these people who have the feeling that they may have stolen Nigerian money in their state or wherever and run out of the country?
Sincerely, I'm more than worried. I don't really have any hope. If I go by the recent developments in the country, in these countries, look at the case of Davian, who has been in the UK for the past 8 years. Unfortunately, Marco cried himself until he got out of office that they've given all the necessary evidence and information that will necessitate the prosecution of Davian. And we were following that case. And I can tell you for a fact that as at early last year, one of the prosecutors or the law enforcement agents in the UK confirmed to us that everything is ready and Davian will be in court not later than July last year. But unfortunately, the politics that have mind you, Davian has not been on bail in the UK, and she's been living her life. We thought things would be different. What was his name? There was this recent report where it was also alleged that the former chief of army staff, Buratai, requested the chairman of the Nigerian Army property, whatever, to pay $730,000 to get a Saudi citizenship or something like that, because quite a number of them are using public funds to secure the citizenship of several countries where they know that they will be protected. And they have properties in this place. We had a report of about 800 properties that are owned by less than 50 Nigerians, the governors, security agents, law enforcement agents, parliamentarians in Dubai alone. And the last one we did was just about 13 properties in the UK. So 16 properties owned by 10 people. What about 120 million? It's there in the US. It's there in the UK. And the law enforcement agencies have these reports on these properties, and nothing has happened. Look at the OPL 245 case that we've been fighting for over 10 years now. The case in Italy was almost badly decided, worse than what you would have expected in Nigeria, to the extent that the OECD working group on bribery criticized the Italian system and the judicial system of failing to abide by their convention against bribery.
Right.
So we really don't have that security or assurances of the international. So we must do everything possible to reform our judicial system and ensure that people don't escape to these countries where they have already siphoned and hidden their stolen assets.
Your final thought on this matter, because I know this Zamfara matter, this may not be the last that we are hearing from it, and this may just be one out of, there are 28 governors that are involved in an election this year, and several of them are leaving office, and there might be issue as to giving account of how they spend the state resources, and which will be a big issue. One of the governors in this country has said, there is no way you want to be a governor for, even if it's for 1 year, that you now have something to answer for as regards the funding and the finances and resources of the state. Going forward, with the manner in which things have gone and the magnitude of some of the allegations of corruption that we have seen, what should Nigerians be hoping for? Are things better? And there are hopes of getting people more accountable to the resources put into their hands, especially at the state level. And as the cabinet, which the governor said, also focus on what is happening at the center.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think if you really ask me sincerely, things are really not getting better. I think our politicians are becoming more brazen. This was just like recently one of those governors that are leaving office was just accused of allocating over 2 billion naira to purchase vehicles for himself and also the deputy governor. So there will be so much of this kind of aid that we would be expecting. We have thought that with the effort of the Buhari regime, and if there's anybody in the Buhari regime that was actually fighting corruption, as part of politicians or politically appointed persons, I think it's just going to be Buhari that we need to check how much of that we're really also going to see with him. But every other person around him are almost immense in one allegation of corruption or the other. So things really are not getting better. And until we investigate all of them and also review their time in office, it might still be like even a worse situation than we had under Jonathan. So, but going ahead, we must also understand the need to not join them in allowing the politicization of the fight against corruption. Everybody must come. If EFCC is able to do 10 out of 28, we should commend it. We should get ICPC and the rest to do the one. If EFCC is able to do 5 of ministers, we should. For the new government,
all right,
society and the media, an agenda that we need to assess, so that when we're asking this question like you asked, we would have evidence to see, after 2023, when you get to office, this was where we are. By 2027, this is where we are again. So if we're not able to do that, we will not be able to have an attractive position on it.
Olarewaju Suraj, many thanks for your thoughts on this very, very critical matter. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.
Thank you for having me.